29th of April, 1886. The Belgian priest Etienne Ignace Stevenard died, head of the orphanage in Mons. During the eulogy, it is said that the bishop loses an engaged priest, a new Saint Vincent Apollo, the Don Bosco from his diocese. So we see that Don Bosco isn't a noun for the bishop and the participants of the funeral. This Italian priest is already in 1886 seen as an example figure. Already during his lifetime, he is an inspiration for priests who work with orphans and educate the pure. During the lecture, we'll search for the development of the image of Don Bosco during the period 1879 till 1934. We'll start with a short historic notice of the way Belgians get to know Don Bosco. Afterwards, we'll search how the Belgian press writes about him and how the image of Don Bosco evaluates. In the Belgian press, we read also the flow of the Belgian history. We read papers from the two parts of the country, the Flemish and Dutch part in Flanders and the French-speaking part, Wallonia, and from the bilingual capital, Brussels. We didn't read only the Catholic papers, but included also liberal and socialist journals to examine what they said about Don Bosco and to look if this image was influenced by this political situation. I will talk about 4 periods. First, during his lifetime, then around his death, third, the way to canonization, and at last, around his beatification and canonization. The first words about Don Bosco in Belgium are certainly spoken in 1867, during the visit of Count Luigi Francesco Zaffirio Provano di Colegno. He writes in a letter to the Salesian Federico Reglia di Santo Stefano about his tour in Germany, France, and Belgium. He says he spoke with influential people in Belgium. One of them spoke shortly before with the Antwerp vicar Johannes Jaspers about the oratories of Don Bosco. These persons asked the Count to encourage Don Bosco to take a trip to Belgium, possibly to attend the 3rd Catholic Congress of Mechelen that takes place in September of that year. 10 years later, it's up to the Belgian primate, Cardinal Victor Deschamps, to ask Don Bosco to send Salesians to Belgium. They met in Rome the 12th June of 1877. Don Bosco writes that evening to Don Rua, "Tell the novices that they, for the love of God, would be ready quickly, because every day the needs grow." At the end of September 1886, the Union Nationale pour le Redressement des Greffes, the Union for the Relief of Accusations, organizes a first Catholic Congress in Liège. During this Congress, 2 speakers refer to Don Bosco as a part solution of the social question. During the Mass of the Holy Spirit, Monsignor Carteuvels says, "A single soul, faithful to the Spirit of God, raises mountains. Witnesses are Saint Vincent de Paul and Don Bosco." 2 days later, the priest, Theophile Koeniggrass, talks about orphans. He concludes with, "The members of the Congress wish that soon there are found ways to base in Belgium institutions for orphans, in the kinds of those created by Don Bosco in Italy." From 1881, the Belgian press writes sporadically about Don Bosco. The first are published in the Catholical periodical Godsdienstige Week van Vlaanderen. It is the religious week for Flanders. They tell about the building of the Sacré Cuore in Rome, about the Salesian mission in Patagonia, and about the Salesian works in 1882. All these articles are taken from the Bulletin Salésien and translated. In 1883 appear more articles in the Belgian newspapers and magazines. First, they tell about his journey through France, then about his visit to Henri, Count of Chambord, the French pretender, deadly ill at the last moment, and at last about a mission in Patagonia. In the period 84-87, the Belgian press dedicates only a few articles to Don Bosco. They describe his audience with Pope Leo XIII, his help during the cholera epidemic here in Turin, the mission in Latin America, an exhibition of the city of Turin, his trips to France and Spain, his visit to Milan, the construction and inauguration of the Sacré Cuore, and one of his begging letters. December 87 brings great news with itself. Don Bosco has given permission to Monseigneur Victor Joseph d'Outreloup to start a Salesian house in Liège. The papers call it a work of providence. Joseph de Marteau, from the Gazette de Liège, is enchanted when he hears the news. He writes a laudatory article in which he wants to welcome the Salesians in Liège. In addition to the attention for the founder of the Salesians and the disciple, he describes the education system of the Salesians. The Journal de Bruxelles copies the same article 1 week later, but has to add less good news. Don Bosco is gravely ill. This news is found in several other papers. On the occasion, they publish stories about the starting of the oratory, the failed attempt by 2 priests to send him to a madhouse, and over the violent attack committed against him. These stories are taken from the book about Don Bosco by Charles Despiny. Don Bosco is made known in Belgium as prior and founder of the Salesians, one of the bases of his works. During his journey through France in 83, this image changes. Don Bosco becomes a saint and a thaumaturgus. Le Bien Public writes, he is venerated for his holiness. They ascribe him, like the priest of Ars, a lot of miraculous healings. After this, a lot of miracles are attributed to him in the Belgian press, without giving a lot of details. Only the Godsdienstige Week van Vlaanderen stays critical when it writes, the people talked about miracles, but invented them, because they who don't believe in miracles want to enlarge everything by talking about it. Where the articles describe Don Bosco as priest, with the adjectives humble, charitable, Italian, zealous, poor, good, well-known and holy, the term priest disappears after 83. They describe him from then as well-known and world-famous. In the last days of 87, they always call him the Vincent de Paul, the Vincent de Paul of Turin, or Vincent de Paul of Italy. The characteristics of the Salesian pedagogy are named sporadically. They talk about the joy, his faith in the boys, the religious ground of his pedagogy without punishment, and they describe it as conqueror with smoothness. Don Bosco is seen by his contemporaries as a living saint. Lots of them write to him. Don Motto thinks that more than 20,000 letters are written by him. In the archives of the Salesians in Rome and Oud-Heverlee in Belgium, 198 letters written by Belgians to Don Bosco or Don Rua in the period between the 21st of February 1879 and 25 February 88 are kept. Through these letters, we can open a window on the relationship between Belgians and Don Bosco in the last 10 years of his life, and we can picture the social and religious context of the correspondence. These 198 letters are a fraction of the letters written to Don Bosco from Belgians. We read in the letters that several correspondents thank Don Bosco for his response to their letter, but this original letter isn't found in the archives. The first letters are sent to Turin in 1879. 7 letters by 5 correspondents. The major part is written after November the 4th, 1887. After a begging letter of Don Bosco, 136 letters are sent to Turin. These letters come from every corner of Belgium. 92 are sent from Wallonia, 64 from Flanders, and 37 from around the capital of Brussels. 5 letters were sent from abroad by Belgians. All letters, except 3 in Latin, are written in French, the lingua franca for the correspondence between foreigners and Belgians in the 19th century. "108 of the letters are written by 84 women and 88 letters by 69 men. From these 155 correspondents, we traced 118 in history. Their average age is 48.5 years, the youngest are 20, and the oldest one is 78. On the same way, I found that the social class and the profession of 109 of them. 20 are nobility, 18 are bourgeois, 13 merchant, and 3 are engineer. 1 is painter, publisher, soldier, and a gendarme. In 114 of the letters, a gift is sent to Don Bosco. The amounts varied between 1 and 5,000 Belgian francs. In total, some 14,087 Belgian francs are mentioned. Calculated is sum of 87,508 euro. On the 22nd of November, 82, priest Henri-Joseph Prévost writes, Mr. Vonk Clément, banker in Yper, brother-in-law of the superior of the convent of St. Nicholas in Kortrijk, thanks you for the fervent prayers said by you and your large family, addressed to the heaven for the recovery of his health. These prayers please the Lord, because this gentleman is doing much better, and we hope he recovers completely. He redirects me to send you the sum of 50 francs, as an account of his gesture of recognition. The 7th December, 87, an unknown man from Bruges writes, included 20 francs with the prayer to do a novena to get a great grace for my children by Mary Immaculate. In the same period, the vicar Emilius Fontaine from Herent writes, offer of 100 francs to Don Bosco, prior to Don Bosco to send me a picture of him with some words by his hand. These citations illustrate the 114 gifts to Turin. Next to the payment for the bulletin salésien or a picture of Don Bosco, they pay for an intention at Mass or for prayers. The Roman thought, do ut des, that seeped through in the Catholic Church, isn't far away. We give to get back from the divine. I told already that the Belgian press made Don Bosco known in Belgium. The press, however, isn't the main source. Lots of correspondents refer to family or friends, so to their social network, that told them about Don Bosco and his work. Clotilde de Stolberg writes, by our good friends of Piedmont, the Knights of Colegno, a family of the deceased knight Louis de Colegno, is heard speaking with great affection about you, your reverend. And my niece, Countess de Saint-Phal, is so happy about the meetings she had with you in Rome, and that she keeps writing with you, that you will forgive me, very reverend and dear father, that I take the courage to address you with these lines. Countess de Saint-Phal convinces also others to write to Don Bosco. Widow Le Broquis says, here you will find a card from Madame de Saint-Phal. She has given to me to introduce me to you, most reverend father. Next to their social network, another source is mentioned, the book of Charles d'Espigny. The Bishop of Liège, Monseigneur Joseph d'Outrelou, writes, "In the winter of 81, Miss Villain 14 has sent me a copy of the book recounting your foundations. A few weeks later, without these gentlemen having talked about it, the book they have read was widespread by I don't know what providential circumstance in a lot of Catholic families in Liège, and several Catholic gentlemen dedicated to the Catholic works asked me if I knew you. At last, the begging letter of Don Bosco, written in November 87, is a source. In this letter, translated in Dutch, in the Godsdienstige Week van Vlaanderen, Don Bosco talks about the Salesian missions in Latin America and begs for alms. This letter finds quick his way to Belgium. Already the 14th of November, priest Louis Capouillet from Thiésy sends 15 francs to Turin. For the period 81-83, the image of Don Bosco found in the press is confirmed in the letters. Don Bosco is a zealous priest. He is a prior of a convent and he takes care for orphans. The thaumaturgical element that ends in 83 appears also in the same period in the letters. Some mysterious things happen around Don Bosco, and Mary loves him as one of her best servants. Heaven can't refuse him anything. The correspondents appeal to Don Bosco as a saint. They write, "You are so holy and so good, Reverend Don Bosco," and "Your holiness is well known, Reverend Father." When the news is spread that Don Bosco is gravely ill, 19 letters are sent to Turin, in which they say that people are praying for his healing. Hortense Stache writes the 23rd of January, "If I ask a lot, I say to myself that the Holy Virgin is rich and powerful, and that if I can't get it on this earth, there is a holy man of God, and that is Don Bosco. If he wants to be my intercessor, I will be saved." This holy character of Don Bosco is confirmed after his death. Simon Schoolmeesters writes, "The venerated deceased was ready for heaven, and the Lord, who didn't want to wait to reward this prominent man in virtue and good works. In heaven he will protect in a more effectively way all his works of charity." The fight to the death and the death of Don Bosco is front-page news in the Belgian newspapers. They copy articles from French newspapers such as La Croix, L'Univers and Le Gaulois. The journalists take the opportunity to write about the life and work of Don Bosco. At this time starts the hagiographical tendency. According to the notifications, a heavenly smile pops up on Don Bosco's lips before he dies. This fact is not reflected in Salesian sources. In these articles, Don Bosco is called for the first time a saint, with or without adjectives, holy priest and saint of Turin. One uses already the term venerable, a term which normally only is given to a person whose beatification process already is in progress. The official canonization of Don Bosco is not awaited. The newspapers mention miracles, healings and predictions. Het Vonsenblad uses the article of the death of Don Bosco to attack the Belgian socialists and liberals. According to this newspaper, he offers a solution to the social question, and they call it a miracle that he could start his work in a revolutionary and liberal Italy. They said that the Belgian liberal Jules Barras would take all the gifts from Don Bosco. The liberal papers go in the counterattack. The Journal de Gand writes that the Catholics use Don Bosco to get some money for the missionaries. In the papers we read that Don Bosco offers an answer to the social question. They copy an article from the French paper Le Gaulois, and say that he saved more than 100,000 youngsters in the world. What is a miracle? The Belgian newspapers follow the canonization process of Don Bosco, but they don't offer much information about his biography. Articles tell about the fictitious visit of Victor Hugo and Francesco Crispi, about the religious basis of his works, about the miracles that happen after the intercession of Mary helps of Christians, and about his mother, Margherita Ochiena. The largest number of articles from this period deals with the start-up of various Salesian houses in Belgium and the further development of them. The journalists of the newspapers from this period, 1889 till 1928, call Don Bosco founder of the Salesians, priest, servant of God, venerable and saint. That Don Bosco is called the founder of the Salesians and founder of orphanages and schools is no coincidence. In this period are founded Salesian houses in Belgium. The readers of the newspapers know these houses and the Salesians. Through this term, both are connected to each other. In these articles, the abundance of miracles, as in the Salesian magazines or the biographies and hagiographies, is not found. Only a few times miracles are mentioned. They talk about his thaumaturgic gifts, healings, and the awakening of one dead. Sometimes the papers tell about some elements from the pedagogic system. They have especially attention for the religious basis on which the system is built and for his pedagogy without punishment. In the last period, 2934, there is, following the causes of canonization, an explosion of articles about Don Bosco in the Belgian newspapers. First of all, the date of his beatification is announced, with the mention of the associated rites and the miracles. It also gives ample attention to the order of the Salesians of Don Bosco and the sisters. They talk a lot about his biography and educational system. Following his beatification in Brussels and Ghent, a triduum is held about Don Bosco. After the beatification, his canonization follows. In 34, a whole series of articles set out the life of Don Bosco and gives more details about the ceremony and the attendees. The canonization is again followed by triduums, this time in Brussels, Tournai, Ghent and Kortrijk. The Belgian newspapers use especially the official title that the Church gives to Don Bosco, successively venerable, blessed and saint. In addition, a lot of the terms founder and founder of the Salesians are used. The Salesian houses are anchored in the Belgian society. One knows them perhaps better than their founder. In the articles from this period, the pedagogical aspect of Don Bosco gets a lot of attention. Several times he is called educator. Different parts of his pedagogical system are explained. The preventive system, the evening words, and they call his pedagogy daughter of love. Especially his attention to the people's youth gets a lot of attention. Het nieuws van de dag, the news of the day, titles on the 1st of April 1934, at the canonization of Don Bosco, father of the orphans, benefactor of the poor, protector of the youth, pioneer of the Christian social action. And Le Courrier de l'Escour writes, Don Bosco can be called the precursor of the modern Christian youth organization. Don Bosco is called a pioneer of the Catholic action, the by Pope Pius XI initiated Catholic movement that wanted to go against the secularization of society. Monsignor Copitus, the Bishop of Ghent, therefore hopes that Don Bosco will be proclaimed the patron saint of the young Christian workers' movement. This Catholic response to the social question makes him an opponent of liberalism and socialism. Het nieuws van de dag called Don Bosco a precursor of the encyclical Rerum Novarum. Don Bosco opposed, according to the newspapers, not only in acts against liberalism and socialism, also in words, through his polemical works. There's also some attention for supernatural things that Don Bosco has done during his life and after his death. Especially Le Bien Public describes Don Bosco as a thaumaturg. All the newspapers mention the miracles that were recognized by the Vatican. Many articles are talking about all kinds of predictions and dreams of Don Bosco. One newspaper, De Gentenaar, even tells about a fictional apparition of Mary here in the night of 7 to 8 December of 87, during the visit of Monseigneur Douterlou. Conclusion. Don Bosco's fame seeps through France into Belgium in the years 1860-1880. From 1879, his prayers are invoked by 161 correspondents. Together, they sent him 198 letters, in which they beg him to pray for the healing of their loved ones, for the deceased, for success. Don Bosco is their support and counsel in difficult moments. He is named a zealous priest, who takes care for orphans. This image is also reflected in the newspapers we explored in this period. One mentions his main pedagogical features of the Salesian pedagogy: the joy, the confidence in the boys, the religious basis of his assisting style, and finally, his pedagogy of love. Starting from 83, the image of Don Bosco changes. During his tour of France, miraculous stories are ascribed to him. He becomes a thaumaturgus. Also, his Belgian correspondents realize this and beg him for help. His death in 88 is not the end of the miraculous image. He is described as a saint, although his canonization process has not already started. His death is also used by the Catholic newspapers to accuse the liberals and the socialists, after which they start a counterattack. In the period of the canonization process, the Salesians founded several houses in Belgium. It is not surprising that the adjective founder of the Salesians, of the Salesian homes and schools, is most frequently used. The readers know the Salesians who are associated with him. During this period, little wonder stories are told about him, but there is more attention for his pedagogy. In response to the causes of canonization, there is an explosion of articles about Don Bosco in the Belgian press. There is especially a lot of attention for his pedagogy and his attention to the Belgian youths. It's a time of the Catholic action from Pope Pius XI that is stimulated as response to the secularization. They use Don Bosco, and one tries to make him of a pioneer of it. In a period of only 50 years, Don Bosco becomes, from a zealous priest who built a church in Rome, the pioneer of youth Catholic organization and the encyclical Rerum Novarum. Grazie.